guys, gals, and pals. Barbie here with Miss Crafts Lair, and I am here today to talk to you and to go over the Luna cardigan pattern notes and such. This particular pattern is available on Ravelry. And just to start off, your materials that you will need, at least some of them, will be a white worsted weight yarn. This is only going to be a small amount, about approximately 4 yards is what I used. Um, and so that is going to be obviously the moon parts to this particular pattern. The main yarn though that you will need is either a black or navy blue worsted weight yarn, and the amounts for that are currently going to be on the screen. As you can tell, that the sizes are from extra small up to 5XL. The chest measurements are 32 inches up to 62 inches for your actual bust measurement, and it is written for a 2 to 4 inch positive ease. So to make this pattern, you will need a size H or 5mm hook or the size that you need to obtain the gauge. Gauge is actually going to be the granny square with a strip of double crochet on either side, and that you'll measure from the top of one double crochet to the other double crochet in order to come up with your gauge. And the gauge is currently on the screen. Just to be sure, it is 6.5 inches for those across that granny square. I am going to go ahead and show you some of the stitches and some of the techniques needed to make this particular cardigan. So as I said, I am using my H or the 5mm crochet hook. This one is a boy crochet hook that's ergonomic, the ergonomic boy. To start off with the granny squares, we start with a magic circle. You can do a chain of 3 or 4 and start your granny square that way. I don't prefer it because I don't think that I can get it as tight as I can with a magic circle. So with the magic circle, I put the tail of the yarn in between my pinky and my ring fingers, and then I wrap the yarn around once and kind of crisscross it around my index and middle fingers here. And so then I go ahead and I take my crochet hook and go underneath that loop and pull up the free working yarn. And that is how I start off my magic circle. I keep this finger, the middle finger, in the loop, and then that way I can use my thumb and index finger from that that hand, my left hand, to hold the working yarn. So from there, I will go ahead and chain and start the double crochets needed for the beginning of most, if not all, of the magic circles or the granny squares for this particular pattern. So in the pattern notes, it does say that the 2 chains from the beginning of the round of the granny square do count as a stitch. So when you're joining your round, you're going to want to go and catch the top stitch from the first double crochet and chain it and join it that way for the first row, and then you're going to go ahead and chain 2 and go back into that particular stitch. Whoops. Go back into that same stitch and do your first double crochet. And once you have gone around that second row for your granny square, you're going to have one last stitch. You are going to work double crochets into that same stitch. And then you are going to skip over these 2 chains from the beginning of this round, and then you are going to chain into and join into that top stitch. So you're working into the stitch that you have joined into for the previous row, and then the last joining chain at the end of that particular round. Some of these stitches that I'm going to be going over now are basic stitches. Some are going to be new to you possibly. Some of them are for the granny squares, some of them are for the actual construction of the cardigan sides and arms. I just find it easier to demonstrate these particular stitches in the flat form. So first off, the first ones that you are going to need is the chain. So I am going to make my slip knot and then just yarn over and draw through, yarn over, draw through, yarn over, draw through. Keeping these kind of loose because the fact that you are going to need to work into them. I prefer to work into the back bumps. I think that that looks a little bit better. So yarn over, draw through a loop, yarn over, draw through a loop, yarn over, draw through a loop. And I am going to continue this on, and then we are going to go into our single crochet. So I've made my the beginning chain. I'm working 20 for this particular demonstration. You're obviously going to be needing a lot more than this if you are going to be working this particular pattern. But I like the idea of 20 stitches for this particular little overview. So I am going to go ahead and chain 1 because the first stitch that I'm going to be showing you how to do the next stitch I'm going to be showing you how to do is the single crochet. You're going to go into the second chain from your hook, and you're going to go ahead and insert your hook, yarn over, draw through that loop. So you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over again, and draw through both of those loops. And that is your single crochet. And I'm going to be building off of this particular sample to show you how to do the rest of the stitches. So here is my single crochet. I am going to chain 2. Some people chain 2, some people chain 3 at the beginning of a double crochet. Because I am going to be working straight into this next stitch here, I am just going to be going ahead and doing 2. So you're going to turn your work, or in the case of the granny square, you're just going to continue going around. And so now we're going to go ahead and work a double crochet into that first stitch. So how you make the double crochet is you yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over and draw up the loop. So you're going to have 3 loops on your hook. So now you're going to yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over again, and draw through those last 2. And that is going to give you your double crochet. So once again, it's a yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch that you need it to go into, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over, insert your hook into your stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. So the standing double crochet is you pull up the loop so that it is about the same height as a double crochet would be. Now this is a good start to your yarn to the row, because then that way it looks more like a worked double crochet than it does the chains do, obviously. So with that, you're going to have your index finger. I use my index finger to hold this loop that's stretched up to about the same height as what a double crochet would be. Um, and then wrap your hook counterclockwise so you have the loop is actually yarned over your hook. Yarn over your working yarn and pull it kind of behind that loop. So you have the main loop, the very top loop, and then you have that new yarn over pull through loop on your hook. So you have two loops. You're going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops, and that gives you the look of the double crochet. So I'm going to work a double crochet next to it, and that is for the remainder of this particular row. I am going to show you the extended double crochet. For the extended double crochet, we're going to yarn over and we're going to yarn over and pull through a loop. Now, with the double crochet, now I would yarn over and pull through two loops, but you're not going to do that for the extended double crochet. For the extended double crochet, you're going to have 3 loops on your hook when you pull up that yarn over. And then we're going to yarn over and we're just going to pull through one of those loops. So you're going to remain with 2 or 3 loops on your hook. Sorry, 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, and draw through 2. So as you can tell, next to this double crochet and the standing double crochet, you can tell that is a bit higher. So I'm going to demonstrate that a few more times for you. So you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch that you're going to be working the stitch into, yarn over, draw through a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, draw through 1 loop, yarn over, draw through 2 loops, yarn over, draw through 2 loops. And you can tell now that how that extra step gives you that extra little height. Height. So now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to move on to show you the treble crochet. So treble crochet, I start off with 3, others start off with 4. Again, it's your preference as to how much of a bump out you want on your particular piece. This stitch is going to be used in the granny square, so you don't have to really worry about the amount of chains that you need to make in order to get the height for this particular stitch. So that being said, I am going to go ahead and chain my 3 and turn my work. Some turn and then chain, others chain and then turn. I prefer to chain and turn. So that being said, to make the treble crochet, you're going to wrap your yarn around your hook twice, so you have basically 3 loops on your hook. Insert your hook into the stitch you need to make the stitch into, yarn over, draw up a loop, so you have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, and yarn over and draw through 2. So here I have a little stand in a granny square. I did not want to make an entire full-on sample of this particular pattern, kind of just for the fact that I've made so many of them in the last couple of weeks, month and a half, that I just did not want to do that particular thing again. So I am going to start off here and show you how to do, so you will have joined all your granny squares in a strip, and what I would say suggest is making sure, because in the granny squares for the you're going to have 2 chains at each end, and I have this particular sample to show you. You'll have two chains at each corner of each granny square that you're going to make for the strip. So with that, when you are whip stitching, or I prefer to do like the I think it's called the blanket stitch. So I'm going in between and sewing around. Make sure that these two, this particular stitch and the adjoining stitch on the other side are still kind of stitched in together, because that's going to make the transition for the next strip a heck of a lot easier. Oh wow, what did I um so yeah, so have these two corresponding stitches here um in the row kind of like tucked in together a bit more, so then that way it's easier for the transition to go down. Now at the bottom of your granny square, the granny square strip, you're going to need to add in a strip of single crochet. So what I am going to do is show you how to do that now. So I join using a slip stitch, and we're going to go into that second chain on that corner and pull that up. It's kind of fiddly, and then make a single crochet into that. And like I said, the beginning of this is kind of fiddly. So there's your single crochet. And now you're going to single crochet across to that first chain of the next corner. And so you're going to have your strip of single crochet, and now we're going to start working on the right side. So you're going to chain onto the end of this single crochet row. So for this particular demonstration, I'm going to go 5. So you have 5 chains as what I just did for this particular demonstration. I'm going to make an extra one because I want this to be 5 stitches long. So in the second chain from the hook, you are going to insert your hook, draw up a loop, and make a single crochet. And you're going to do that across the next amount of stitches of chains that are in the pattern. And you are going to come back to that final chain. And so now you're going to have your single crochet sitting here from the row, the side of the single crochet from the row that you did at the end of your granny squares. And so now into this side of the single crochet, you're going to work a double crochet. And then you are going to double crochet into this next stitch here, into the second chain of that corner. And in each of the stitches across. And so then you would get to the end of the granny square strip, at which point in time, then you are going to go ahead and chain the amount of stitches to go over your shoulder and to go down the front of the cardigan. So now I have, this would be the chain, or the ribbing. This is the strip to go down the back here up to here, and then I have the shoulder and the front stitches here. Now I'm going to work in the second chain from the hook, and I am going to single crochet all the way across all of the stitches. I take that back. I'm going to single crochet across the stitches until the last 5 stitches that are for the ribbing in this little sample. All right, and just to let you know that I have, because of the fact that I like to work in that back bump, I do end up twisting this particular row a little bit. But once you put in the ribbing for the faux button band, um, you can't hardly, you don't even tell that it's twisted. One more. All right. Now for the ribbing stitches, we're going to do back loop only stitches. So if you look at the top of your piece here, you have the V's. So you have the V here. So 1V, 2V, 3V. So what we're going to want to do is work into that back loop for the V. That's the the back part of that stitch. So let me pull this yarn tight and not show off my loose hair that's around here. And so we're going to yarn over and we're going to do a single crochet just into that loop. And we're going to do it down the ribbing to that last stitch. As so. And so that is what that is going to look like. As you can tell, there's a little bit of a bump up here, and you're going to be able to see that more when I work on this next row. So this next row, we're going to start the special moss stitches. So we're going to work in the back loop only for the first 5 stitches in this sample. Different stitch count in the pattern. All right. And now we're going to start the stitch pattern for this particular pattern, or for this particular cardigan. So we have worked our for the sample, the 5 stitches for the ribbing. And now we're going to chain 1, skip that first stitch, and single crochet into the next stitch. And that is going to be the pattern across. So chain 1, skip 1, single crochet. And we're going to do that all the way across. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet all the way across the piece until you get to those ribbing stitches. And then you're going to do the same back loop only single crochet for the ribbing. And then you do the skip 1, single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in that last stitch, and then you're going to go ahead and work your back loop only for the ribbing stitches. And that is going to be your row repeat across the back portion and that front portion of the cardigan. Every sleeve is going to be an even amount of stitches. So you are going to start your sleeve in a chain 1 space. So you're going to have to connect your yarn the same way we did at the bottom of the granny square. We're going to go ahead and connect the yarn there and do a single crochet in that same spot. And we are going to work across, and with it being an even amount of stitches, you're going to be working the same pattern. So you're going to do a chain one, skip one, and then single crochet in that next chain space. So we're going to do that for an even amount of stitches, which means that when you get to that end, you're going to have an extra chain one space, or you're going to have an extra stitch that you're going to have to work into a single crochet, if that makes sense. Trying to make words seem to be kind of hard right now. So when you get to the end, you're going to have a single crochet that you're going to have to work into a single crochet space. So you are going to work, uh, each sleeve has an even amount of stitches at the beginning and all the way down to the cuff. So if you, with working in this particular stitch pattern, you will end up having to put a chain or a single crochet in a single crochet space from the prior row. That makes sense. So now the next, or we're going to work this next row as if it were a decrease row. So in order to decrease, we're going to single crochet two together. So we're going to insert our hook in that first stitch, draw up a loop, insert our hook in the next stitch, and draw up a loop. So now in over two stitches, we have 3 different loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and draw through all 3 of those together, and that makes 1 stitch where we're decreasing down 1 stitch while using 2 stitches. And so now this next stitch is going to be a chain space, chain space in this particular sample. So in order to work that, we're going to end up making a single crochet into that particular stitch. And then we are going to chain 1 and then continue our pattern down to our last 2 stitches. So this is how you're going to decrease each decrease row. And I don't know if I've gotten kind of louder. If I did, oops, my bad. All right. So now this particular stitch is a single crochet from this in the previous round or row. So we're going to chain over that, but we're going to single crochet 2 together in the last 2 stitches, like such. So we're going to have in the in the chain 1 and in that last single crochet, we're going to have a loop off of each one of those. Yarn over, and we're going to draw through all 3 loops. So that has gotten us down 2 stitches on either side, or 1 stitch on either side, 2 stitches total for this row decreased. So I'm going to act like this next one is supposed to be a decreased row as well. In the pattern, it tells you how many rows to put in between your decreased rows. And so then that would be the decrease down. And then we would have to do, when we get to the wrist, because we're starting to kind of run out of stitches here. So when we get to the wrist, we're going to chain for our ribbing. And now we are going to second chain from the hook, go in and work our double crochets, or single crochet, sorry. And we're going to work down that chain. So I did a chain 5 here, and there is that. We're going to kind of flip my work here, because the next step is then to work on your ribbing going off like this. You are going to skip that first single crochet. Well, we're going to single crochet across, but in this one we're going to go saying I did not do that, strip a single crochet. I am going to go into the stitch and pull it through, and then I'm going to go into the next stitch. So I'm going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches and then turn my work, and then I'm going to back loop only over the same amount of stitches. I'm going to skip over those 2 slip stitches and back loop only down the ribbing. And because this is single crochet, I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and then single crochet through past the ribbing. I'm moving just a little bit faster now because I have already done the stitch demonstration for single crochet again. And then these next 2 stitches down on the sleeve are going to get a slip stitch like so. So that is how you do the ribbing. Down the wrist. That's the last stitch of the single crochets across the bottom of the granny strip. And so we're going to just, instead of like slip stitching or anything, we're just going to take that slip knot, and then we're going to go ahead and start working back loop only into the strip from, or the chain that we made for the waistband. And then we're going to work the same ribbing as we did on the sleeve. So we're going to chain 1, turn, work single crochets, back loop only all the way across the ribbing here. And then we're going to go ahead and slip stitch in the next 2 stitches and work our ribbing stitches in the back loop only again. There we go. And now worked correctly, you would have had 1 right side row heading out away from the granny strip. So in that way, when you go in to work the next row, you are going to go straight across. You're going to work straight across. So we're going to do the same thing, only in reverse, kind of. Well, the same thing on this side. So you're going to go and work across on the right. This time it'll be the wrong side, but it'll work. So you're going to work this same row as you did over here. So you're going to end up working your ribbing stitches in single crochet, and then you're going to do the row of double crochets and then the chain again, and then it's all the same from there on out to the cuff on the other side. So there is no sense in me really showing that to you. When you are done working that particular sleeve cuff, then you're just going to end up stitching together the seams for the sides. The sides are going to be slightly different than what you see here because of the fact that I was just kind of showing you the basic stitches that you are going to need to do in order to make this. So this is how you basically do the stitches for the Luna cardigan. Like I said, this particular pattern is available in my Ravelry shop. I am considering getting Ribbler if that is something that you guys are interested in me getting as well. Leave a comment in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you enjoy this pattern, and I loved working on it, and it was quite fun for me. So thank you so much, and until next time.